What is up, my friends? What's going on? My name is Control for Days. I am so excited for today's video. I don't know if you can tell. I can't contain my excitement. Today we have a very, very special video, one that I am very lucky to bring to you. A good friend of mine by the name of Xerk. You may know him as the best Yawgmoth pilot on the planet. About 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we did a video where we featured Xerk's challenge winning list. And if you're looking at the screen right now and comparing it to that previous video, you'll notice that the list today is exactly the same as that previous video. And the reason being is because I'm not playing today. I am not playing through a league. I'm not playing through a challenge, but instead I have been gifted Xerk's VODs of his challenge win, and I am going to go through his challenge win match by match, play by play, and we're going to break it down and react to it in live time. I have not watched all of this as of yet, so we're going to be seeing the plays together. We're going to talk through the plays a little bit. So this is going to be a little bit more of a technical look at Yawgmoth today. So if you're looking to improve your play, you're looking to get a different perspective, this would be a good video to do. So we're still going to have fun, so don't think we're not going to do that, but we're really going to take a deep dive into some of the plays and the intricacies associated with this deck as we work our way through to Xerk's challenge win. The deck list that Xerk ran is this 75. The big things that stand out: third basic forest, shaving on a twilight mirror, thinking about blood moon decks as Mycosynth Gardens enters the format. We've talked through that a little bit in our past videos, so you kind of get the gist with regards to why that would be kind of a chain reaction of events and things that we would expect. Around 6 fetch lands, 3 birds, 4 hierarchs. We've shaved a bird to make room for the 4th wall of roots, so we can still run our best bud Prosperous Innkeeper. Have Patras in the main. We shaved on our Geralf's Messenger, our relic of the past we have said goodbye to for now. 3 Evos, 2 Endurance. So if you've watched my videos before, this is pretty similar to what I normally run, with the exception of the mana base is a little bit different, but outside of that, this main deck is identical to what I've been doing. Sideboard, we are running 2 removal spells, and I think a big reason we're doing that is for Murktide. It's a big deck where we want to have access to these kind of cards. Also good against Domain. It's got some applications in a couple of different matchups, so Scam as well. I know Xerk brings in some removal for Scam, so those are there for that as well. 3 Thoughtseize, 1 Necromentia, 3 Force of Vigor. All of those are pretty stock, pretty concrete right now in terms of their place in the sideboard. Same thing with those 2 Endurance and the 1 Scavenging Ooze. Veil of Summer is a hedge against Murktide and Scam again. We have a Liberator. My personal preference is Haywire Might. I don't know if I've converted Xerk as of yet or not, or if Xerk has become a believer, but I know he's been running Might as of recently. But in this challenge, we've got a Liberator, and then we're closing out the 75 with one of our good friends from the past, and that's made a little bit of a resurgence recently, Crime Punishment. This is the 75 we're running through the league with, not the league, that's just habit saying that, through Xerk's challenge with. Before I do that, once again, I want to say a huge thank you to Xerk, and also, if you have not done so already, in the comments section or in the description of this video, I have linked Xerk's YouTube page. If you do not know Xerk has a YouTube page, it's linked in the description below. He does, in fact. He has a bunch of his previous challenge wins on that page as well. I highly recommend you go check it out and hit the subscribe button when you get there. Show your support, show your love, let's be supportive if you have not done so already. So let's jump into this challenge and see how Xerk's Yawgmoth does, and I think we might already know how it goes. All right, match 1. We are on the play here, and I say we as if we are a part of this. And Xerk's opening 7 started out a very solid 7-card hand. 3 lands, some ramp, a chord to find a Yawg. Looks good to me. That's definitely a keep, regardless of what you're playing against on the play. Leads off on a Birds of Paradise, passes the turn. Opponent names Goblin off of their cavern. So the secret's out. They're on Goblins here. Let's see how this goes. So turn 2, the draw is a Yawgmoth, and this opens up some really, really big possibilities because this is kind of the start you need to have a turn 3 kill. If you go Wall of Roots, Wolf, Wolf, and then next turn you can chord, get yourself a Yawg, and then go for the kill from there. So this is a really explosive hand, a really explosive start, especially on the play. So things are looking good so far. And generally, Goblins X1s don't fare very well against a Yawgmoth. So turn 2, they cast Snoopy. Snoopy is their kind of the main engine of their combo, how they facilitate their combo in this deck. And so they're looking to set up their kill. They can get a kill as early as turn 3 in this deck, so that's what they're looking for next turn. They sacrifice a Prospector to cast a Prospector off the top. Xerk drew into an Eldritch Evolution that turn, sacked the wall, got a Yawg, and then this opens up the Court of Calling for the kill here to get the Blood Artist. So this game is in the bag. Game 1, match 1, we're up 1. All right, we're back. This is game 2. If you do the math, you can see the sideboard's ins and outs over here. It looks like a 2 Endurances were pulled, a Grist was pulled, an Evo was pulled, a Geist was pulled. And in terms of sideboarding in, it looks like a Thoughtseize was brought in, a Fatal Push was brought in, and I don't remember what the other cards were, but that's what we're looking at. You can do the math on it if you saw the sideboard from game 1. All right, game 2. Let's see what we're working with. Opening 7. Against Goblins, this is an interesting hand. I don't think it's good enough to keep. You don't have a Yawg, and it's a little bit slow, so I would probably mulligan this hand. Let's see what Xerk does here. And he does. 6 is excellent. You have interaction with Thoughtseize, turn 2 Wall into Wolf, turn 3 Yawgmoth, and then you'll also have a chord up from there on their turn. So this is a really strong 6-card hand. I guess you're gonna have to ship something. You probably ship. I'd probably ship the chord here. Let's see if Xerk does the same. Yep. Okay. So turn 1 Cavern. Surprisingly, they named Goblin. Cast out an Aether Vial. I'm a fan of that Aether Vial art. It's cool. It's cool. Wouldn't be my first pick. I'm a classic kind of guy, but I don't mind that vial. Draw for turn in Evo, which is fine. I'm gonna rewind here for a second. We're gonna run that back real quick. So interesting play on turn 1 that Xerk leads out on the Thoughtseize as opposed to playing out the Yawgmoth. It makes sense because turn 2, right, you can go Wall of Roots into Yawgmoth. It's not so much an interesting play, but it makes sense. With these 6 cards, or 5 cards, I think you're probably taking the Snoop. I didn't see what he took before, but yeah, took the Snoop. Makes sense. So far we're on the same page here. There's the cards that we know about. Opponent ticks up the vial, passes the turn. We draw into an Ignoble, which is also a solid draw. Will help us to ramp on our next turn. And here I think you're going to go Wall of Roots into Ignoble just because it guarantees you got the Yawgmoth next turn. Let's see if this is what happens. Wall, Ignoble. We're on the same page here. They're going to vial in the Prospector, and next turn I think there's going to be a Harbinger into play. So they're setting up their thing. There's the Harbinger, vials on 2, and they get a Peshalik Mons. I can't actually click on the card, so I don't know what the actual text on this card is off the top of my head. I know it has quite a bit of text, though, if I remember correctly. We draw into a Beseiju on our turn here. So this opens up, I guess, just Yawg into Yawgmoth. And you're going to draw a card killing the Harbinger, probably. I guess it depends on what the Palashika, yeah, I just made up that name. Peshalik Mons does. You might hold that back, and I guess maybe you kill the Prospector first because that allows you to draw more cards. Because they're going to sacrifice that in response, so that might be the move. depending on what this thing actually does. So we'll see if Xerk takes a similar line here. Leads on Wolf, Yawgmoth next, I'm assuming. There's the Yawg. We're gonna sack. They kill the Prospector to start with. Yes. Okay. So that's what we expected. Oh, and they didn't sacrifice the Prospector in response, so we got an extra card out of the deal. And there's a Court of Calling, which we'll be able to use on their turn to get another Young Wolf, and I think that should probably lock up the game because they're definitely dead on the next turn. Opponent plays out a land, fetches, basic mountain, 4 mana. Is this a Sling-Gang? It is. Gang. From here, let's see what they do. Recording in response, they're going to activate the Vial in response. Let me see what this thing does. Whenever Pashalik Mons or another goblin you control dies, it does something. I don't know what it does. Help. Okay. So we're activating the Yawg. We're going to kill the Pashalik. Sling-Gang is being activated here. This is like rapid fire. I'm trying to keep up here. Alright, that thing dies. Deals 1 damage to any target. There goes the Sling-Gang. We're sacrificing a wolf to do that. Life total's starting to get a little low. Alright, so the turn ends. We're at 6 life. They're at 21 life. I think their entire hand is pretty much gone at this point. Oh, they have 0 cards in hand. Yeah, so they're playing off the top, and I think this is pretty close to GG at this point. Swing for 4 with the Geist, and we have a guaranteed kill next turn, so we'll see what happens. They draw a card, only card in hand. They have 2 Goblin tokens back, and now this is going to be a good game. So we'll sacrifice one of the Hierarchs, or I guess, yeah, we can sacrifice the Geist as well. Get our Blood Artist, and we have our combo in play for the kill. 1-0. Let's go. Alright, we are back. This is match 2 of Xerk's challenge. We are playing against JowyCRO. I missed what the opening 7 was. Looks like we're on a mulligan to 6 with a double Boseiju hand. 6 is a little bit weak. But I guess you have you don't have a turn 3 Yawgmoth, but this hand's a little suspect, but I guess you keep it. We're gonna lead off on our Overgrown Tomb, play out a Young Wolf, and then pass the turn from there. I think that's really interesting, taking that line, playing out the Tomb as opposed to playing out the Boseiju. I'd be curious to hear why that decision was made, why you're shocking there as opposed to playing out the Boseiju, unless you have some information in terms of what they're playing. That's interesting to me. I probably would have led Boseiju there. They lead out on a Flooded Strand. They don't have a companion revealed, so we don't have too much information yet. Alright, we draw into a Geist. Geist is a pretty solid draw, I'd say. We'll play that out, and we'll swing for 3, I would imagine. Start getting the beats in. Opponent's going to be down to 16 with this fetch, assuming they don't bolt something. Okay, a Triumph, so they're on some sort of a Wrenn and 6 deck here. They bring their land back, and then they're going to pass the turn from there. This is going so fast. We drew a Verdant Catacombs, really good draw there. So we can either try to swing into the Wrenn and 6, or we can use that Court of Calling, get ourselves a Blood Artist, and then try to kill on the next turn. This one's a little bit tricky. I think I like just swinging with the Geist and leaving the cord open. I think that's probably the play I would take just off the top of my head. We'll see if Xerk does the same. Nothing. Okay, so they're going for the Blood Artist line here. Okay, turn 3, they're going to get back their Flooded Strand. They play out a basic island, or they fetch a basic island and get a Risen Reef. Okay, so the cat's out of the bag. We know what they're doing now. They're on an Elementals deck. So we should have this, should be in good shape here. Unless they have a Solitude, they're going to lose. We are going to have to use this cord before they discard EOT. So we'll see. So much card advantage between the Wrenn and 6 and the Risen Reef. Okay, so an interesting take there, getting the Hapatra as opposed to getting the Blood Artist. The Hapatra lets us go infinite as well. So if they get rid of one of our Undyers, we still have a board state where we can go infinite. So that's actually a really smart take, and I like that play a lot. So we'll play out a land, and then play out our Yawgmoth, and then they're in a position where they have to respond to this, or they're going to be in deep, deep trouble. They do not. So the Risen Reef's going to bite the dust. And in that situation there, I actually like leading on sacrificing the Geist just because you can get an extra point of damage in with attacks. It's probably not going to matter, but that would have been how I would have started there and then attacked and then gone from there. Okay, we swing down the Wrenn and 6, and now we're in a position where we're just going crazy. So our board's just going to go super, super wide, and it's going to be darn near impossible for our opponent to win from this point. We fill up our hand, we discard a Ignoble Hierarch and pass the turn, and now our opponent, yeah, that's a little too late here. So we'll just mow that down with our Hapatra, and then next turn we've got the Blood Artist in play. Alright, they play out a Fury. Sure. We'll kill the Omnath in response, draw a couple more cards. And I think we just have lethal on the attack with all of these tokens in play. Alright, we draw for turn, and we also have another Geist. We have 2 more Geists in hand, so we can just play both those out. We got more than enough to make the kill. So, game 1 in the bag, easy peasy. I think the defining play that game was not swinging with the Geist, courting for the Hapatra as opposed to going for the Blood Artist, and then killing from there. It seems like they didn't have a Solitude, so I think if we got a Blood Artist, we probably still would have gotten the kill. But I like that Hapatra line. It seemed like a safer line. Game 2, opening 7. This hand's fine. It's a keep. It's not great, though. Sideboarding-wise, we pulled out some Endurances, pulled out Birds of Paradise, pulled the Blood Artist. Very interesting there. Not something I would do. Pulled an Evo. Brought in Thoughtseizes. Not sure what else they brought in, but interesting to see that strategy, that board strategy. Okay, so turn 1 they lead on a Stomping Grounds into an Oath of Nissa. They're fixing their mana, drawing some cards here. They drew into an Endurance. Forest into Yawgmoth. First turn is pretty straightforward there. They play another land, so no Wrenn and 6 on turn 2, which is really good. We'll be playing out our wall. Not too much to do on this turn. Fetch a basic, wall, pass the turn. Next turn we could potentially have a Yawgmoth up. They don't cast a Risen Reef, so we're not as pressured into making that play. There's almost an argument to go for a Grist here, as opposed to going for a Yawgmoth, and I'm curious to see if Xerk takes this line. So I'm always a little bit more on the cautious side, so I think I'd probably, on this turn, I'd probably attack with the Young Wolf and then get Grist, and then next turn try to get our Yawgmoth. We'll see if the same line. Nope, just go for the Yawg. Have a lot of value there, so might as well take it. Alright, there's a Solitude. Sure. We're going to draw a good handful of cards here. It looks like Endurance coming into play, so it's eating. We knew about that Endurance because we saw it off the Oath of Nissa. So that cuts us off of extra value with this Yawgmoth here, but we'll still draw at least 1 card. I didn't realize I had the volume on in the video. I think somebody was messaging Xerk. Alright, so drawing a couple cards here. Solitude's gone. They have a 2/3 Endurance. We drew into a Liberator, one of the cards that was boarded in here. I would imagine to deal with Leyline Binding. Next turn, pretty straightforward. Player 2 drops, pass the turn back. Nothing too fancy here. And this feels like an Omnath. Okay. Yeah, so I think we're behind at this point. It's never a bad thing seeing them cast an Omnath on turn 4, but if they can do it on turn 5, it's always problematic because you know they're going to ramp their mana from there, and then things start getting really far out of control. It feels like another Solitude. Okay, or an Elish Norn. That was also a possibility. And this, I think this spells problems here. Grist was a good draw. Get ourselves our Yawg. We'll sacrifice. And we're in pretty big trouble. So they have 3 cards in hand. They play out a land for the Omnath. They will gain 4 life, add 4 mana, and we're swinging with the team. Long hair don't care. I think you block the Omnath and proliferate here. Xerk sees the line, of course. So we'll take a hit for 5, going down to, and they do nothing else. So play out our Grist, play our land untapped. And the reason we're doing that is to look for a proliferate line again. Alright, cast second Oath of Nissa. They're going to draw into a flooded strand. I wonder, it kind of feels like they're flooding out at this point. Drawing into that flooded strand. Play a Misty. So we know they have a strand, and they play out a Misty. Weird that they did that. So a little bit of an error on our opponent's part, giving us some extra context to know what's going on here. We're going to sack and hit the Elesh Norn with this one. We drew into a court. Not bad. Alright, this game's not over yet. So I think we're going to, once again... Okay, so there was two lines to make there. There was a line at the end of turn to sacrifice the peat land, which was the line that Xerk took. Also a consideration to proliferate, bump up the grist, and dump down these creatures a little bit further. Xerk opted for the draw card line as opposed to the proliferate line. I think both are fine there. This one is it worked out really well getting that Geist. I think both lines were okay. Okay, we play out the Geist, play out our land, we'll plus, and now we have pretty strong board state from this point. Oh, we're gonna minus, we're gonna kill the Elesh Norn. Makes sense. And this looks like, I don't know what our opponent's doing here. Okay, another Endurance. It's a little annoying. But Elesh Norn will be going away. They don't really have too powerful of a board state as it stands. So what depends what we draw here. I think that's going to be pretty important, whatever this draw step is. Geist is gone. Elesh Norn is gone. Okay. Moving back to their turn. And no attacks. Okay, once again, they're kind of just hanging tight. Get our Dryad Arbor here. Proliferate. Grist up. Endurance down. So that one Endurance is pretty much obsolete at this point. From here, I think... Okay, so this is an interesting point. So the last time I probably would have taken the Proliferate line and Xerk opted to draw a card. And here I probably would opt to draw a card. And it looks like Xerk is just leaving mana up for the Court of Calling. So interesting, we would take different lines in each of these places. My first thought with regards to this chord is looking for a Blood Artist. But I kind of want a little more information before I make that move. So the Peat land, I think I would probably draw a card there, because you can still get the Blood Artist or Hapatra either way. Moving back to their turn, 4 mana, this could either be an ending or a Omnath. Feels like an ending. Engineered Explosive, okay. It's aggressive. And here I think okay, we're leaving up the court to get ourselves another Yawgmoth. Reasonable. Life total's getting a little sketchy though. So we'll block. Okay, go 5. Hapatra, I would imagine. Okay, Innkeeper. Innkeeper also fine. Gain ourselves some life here. Draw a card. We have our Ignoble. So Yawg will gain a life. We're going to plus the Grist. It feels like we're starting to pull ahead a little bit here. Like the tides have turned a little bit. So the Endurance not too scary. And unless they have a way to get this Yawg off the board, I think they're in pretty big trouble. Another Oath of Nissa comes down. Fury. Fury is it does the job when it comes to getting rid of Yawgmoth. Hits the board, hits Yawg. So we're definitely dumping, I think, the Dryad Arbor and the Insect, but we're going to take it one at a time and see what we draw into. There goes the Dryad Arbor. Draw into a Thoughtseize, not a very good draw. Dump the Insect, a Murderous Cut. So that gets rid of the Fury for us. And now the question is, do you dump the Hierarch as well? And I think you do. Yes. Okay, Yavimaya, not great. Okay, we're getting rid of the Innkeeper as well. So their board state's neutralized. We got the cut for the Fury, and then those 2 Endurances don't do anything at this point. Draw into a Geist, we'll play out the Wolf, play out the land, so we're not taking any damage off of our mana anymore. Play out our Geist, plus the Grist. Oh, reminding the Grist. Okay, so we're saving this Murderous Cut for like an Omnath maybe. Kill that, and then we're going to start bringing the beats. I like it. Start pressuring that life total. They've got 1 card in hand. Let's see what JowyCRO does. Drawing on their turn, moving back. We have another Oath of Nissa. The Green Ponder, as they call it. And we find ourselves a Solitude. Okay, pretty good, pretty good. Still doesn't get rid of the Grist, though. The Grist is a bit of a problem for them. Court of Calling, close to the best draw we could have. Oh, okay. So just rewinding my thought process for a second there. Blood Artist was boarded out, which is why we didn't get it earlier in the game, and we got the Innkeeper instead. So that makes sense. Moving to attacks, we have the Geist. We're baiting this Solitude here. So they're going to Solitude the Geist. We're going to Chord for Yawg, and then we're going to sacrifice the Geist in response. So that's what we're doing here. Announce your target, please. Oh, fancy. I'm going to get myself a Yawgmoth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we also have a Proliferate line up, so we can actually just wipe their board from here. So we'll sacrifice the Geist, target the Solid. Oh, we wanted the life. Okay, interesting. I don't know if that was a misclick, but I think I likely would have sacrificed and minus the Solitude there. I'm guessing that was a misclick. I could be mistaken though. So Xerk, if you're watching this, let me know if that was intentional or not. Teferi hits the board. That one's annoying. That's annoying. Okay, we're going to sacrifice, target the wolf, draw a card. We're going to sacrifice the wolf, hit the Solitude, and then I imagine we're proliferating from here. So we'll dump down all 3 of their creatures. Get rid of the Blooming Marsh or the Thoughtseize. Yep. Grist is going up again. Young Wolf is turning into a beater. We got our Yawg back in the hand. They have 2 cards in hand from here. We'll see what they're working with. Okay, so interesting sequencing here. There is a Teferi in the corner of the screen over here. Xerk is leading this turn on a +1 with the Grist. And here, I think I actually like attacking into the Teferi first, just to see what they do. And then +1ing the Grist, just in case we need to minus, like if they cast something out during combat, if we need to minus the Grist. So I think I would have done that one a little bit differently. But yeah, I guess if you're casting the Yawg here, maybe it, no, I think I liked the sequencing a little bit different here. So here comes a binding. They're getting rid of the Yawg. We're going to draw a card, and then we're going to swing at this Teferi, I would imagine. We'll see. See if they pressure life total or face. Okay, there goes the Teferi. And the reason I like the Teferi is because we have the Murderous Cut in hand. If we didn't have the cut, I'd probably just go face with that. But because we have the cut, we want to get rid of that Teferi. Moving back to their turn, Omnath. Okay, Steam Vents, they're going to gain 4. All of our hard work during combat just undone. All right, moving back to our turn. Grist, we're minusing the Grist here, it looks like. Dumping the Young Wolf, hitting the Omnath, and then we're going to swing for 4. And I think we keep this Forest in hand just in case we get to proliferate with the Yawg. I'm not sure if we have any Yawgs left in the deck, but I think that's the reason why we do that. Opponent does nothing on their turn. We draw into a Geist, which is a solid draw, and they're actually pretty close to a 2-turn clock here. Hitting for 7 down to 10. And then next turn we have a Grist Ultimate as long as they don't have an Endurance. So this could be game over, and we get there. All right. Well played. Well played. I think we are back. Match 3 of Xerk's Challenge. Currently 2-0. We are going to be, I think that was on the play. Could be mistaken. And we are mulliganing quite a bit. This looks like a mull to 4. So this one's going to be tough. Turn 2 Grist, assuming the Hierarch survives, but definitely not where you want to be. Okay, opponent leads on a Spire Bluff Canal, kills the Hierarch. So we're thinking Murktide right off the bat. No companion shown. Draw into a Yawg, which is a powerful card if you can ramp into it in this instance, but unfortunately, we don't have our Hierarch anymore. They go Delta, and we draw into a Geist. This game kind of feels like it might be over. They're fetching and countering this Geist. It feels a little aggressive to me, but they might have more gas to work with on their turn. And we drew into our 3rd land. Opponent has counter magic up, it appears. But I think we're just in a position where we need to jam and get lucky. So it looks like that's what we're doing. Another counter. And now if we play out this Yawgmoth, it's going to be naked. There's not going to be any creatures on the board if we can cast it out this next turn. So not really where you want to be. Chord represents Dryad Arbor, but against the deck with 8 lightning bolts or 7 or whatever it is, it's probably not going to be surviving. So, opponent Archmage's Charm drew 2 cards. Moving to their turn, this is a Murktide, and I think this is probably just game over from here. Got the cord. They're leaving a mana up, so they have some form of interaction, and they reveal a Spell Pierce. Xerk is sticking it out here, trying to fight the good fight, but yeah, they're really, really far behind at this point. Ragavan swinging. Really strong play from our opponent. A show of strength, saying, hey, I've got a Lightning Bolt in my hand. Block my Ragavan if you want to. Xerk opts not to. And takes a hit for 9. Got a Grist. They don't have any counter magic. So that's strong, but life total is dwindling here. Got the Dryad Arbor. We'll dump that down. And we did not find a Yawgmoth, so we scoop from there. So, moving to game 2. Alright, so we're down a game. Down a game against Murktide. Game 2. See what we got. And this is O_Daniel Akos that we're playing against. We're keeping a 7-card hand. Our opening 7 is fairly strong. We're going to take some damage off this land. But I do like the composition of this hand. Sideboarding strategy. It looks like Xerk is bringing in more cards than I would typically in this matchup. Boarding out 4 Hierarchs, which I like. Boarding out a Geist on the play, which I think is fine. And then 3 Eldritch Evolutions, which I also do in this matchup. So he's bringing in 8 cards, quite a hefty bunch of cards. And it seems like the cards that are coming in are 4 Endurance, 3 Thoughtseize, and a removal spell. Removal spell or 2. It looks like 2. Oh, there's Blood Artist's gone too, so 2 removal spells. I've actually never really thought about boarding out Blood Artist in this matchup. I think I kind of like that. I like that. Alright. Bolt the Bird. We know how that works. Thoughtseize. We see there's 7 card hand, or there's 6 cards that are left, and I think this is a pretty tough decision. So you're torn between a couple of cards here. The main contenders are Hearse, Counterspell, and Dress Down. I don't think you take the Counterspell because a lot of the cards in your hand are instant speed. Particularly the Endurance and the Court of Calling, so you can kind of play around that, and they have to keep that up if they want to use it. So I think you're between the Hearse and the Dress Down, and in this situation I think I'm probably going to take the Hearse. That's my personal choice. Let's see if Xerk does the same. Okay, Iteration. That was like the one card I wasn't thinking about, so that's really, really interesting. So we know their cards in hand. They play out the Misty, and they pass the turn, so they're leaving up the Counterspell. Here we draw into our Innkeeper. We'll swing in with the Wolf. And then you're kind of faced with the decision. Do you play out the Innkeeper from here? Use your mana, try to draw out the Counterspell. Looks like we're going to do that, and they're going to counter that. They're going to Dress Down. Okay. So we don't get the treasure off that. They play a land on their turn. A land we did not know about. So we know Counterspell, we know Hearse, and we know Tarn. 3 of their 5 cards. Didn't draw a land, so I think you're just going to play out the Yawgmoth and then pass the turn, leave up the Court of Calling. Okay, nothing. Nothing there. Okay. Opponent considered, plays out another land. Stalling on 2 lands never feels good in this sort of a situation. The 2 lands in the opener and never drew another one. So this is turn 4 at this point. Court of Calling. Get ourselves a bird. Bird's going to get bolted. We know how that works. Untap. Yavimaya was a strong draw. We like that. We're going to start swinging. Bring in the team. 16. Start putting some pressure on them. And we've got this Endurance up. And I guess the question is that we know they have the Counterspell in hand, so we're not going to be able to sneak this Endurance in unless they tap down lower than they should. Okay, they untap. No Endurance during the upkeep, which I would agree with. There's the Hearse we knew about. I guess the question from here is, do you play out this Endurance now, or do you wait? And I think, so you can wait 1 more turn. We know they have 3 cards in hand. We know they have a Tarn. No, we don't. We know they have a Counterspell. So if you're going to play out the Endurance, you need to draw into a land, because you're going to want a cord for either a Grist or another Endurance, probably another Endurance. So this one's a little bit tricky. I don't know that it gets better if you wait another turn, though, so I think you probably jam this Endurance now. We'll see if he does this. And he does. And there's the counterspell, which we expected, and now it's land or bust. Another chord. That's fine. You can get yourself a 2-drop, so I guess you get yourself a Wall of Roots, and then try to chord into a Yawg on the following turn. Alright, so they're going to start eating our graveyard here. They've got 3 cards in hand. Drawn to an island, so a little bit of a show of weakness. Still 3 cards. Let's see what our Chord of Calling yields. I'm guessing a Wall of Roots here. The reason being is because it opens up our Yawgmoth. Chord for 2. There's our Wall of Roots. We gain a life. We move to untap. Endurance is an excellent draw there. So Endurance gives us the ability to draw another counterspell if they have it, and then try to open up for Yawgmoth on the following turn. We'll swing for 3, put him down to 12. They eat a couple more cards with the Hearse, sure. Endurance during the upkeep. Bang, bang. And they don't counter it, so to me that says they probably are sitting on air at this point. Alright, so we're in a really, really good position. And now, yeah, I'm tempted to just go aggro on them. So we are leaving up a chord for 4. So we're telegraphing that, but I don't know that... I think I'd probably just put him on a 2-turn clock there. I actually don't think I would leave up the chord for 4. Okay, chord for 2. We're getting another Geist. Okay, so this is lethal here if they don't do anything. Alright, so I see what you did there, Xerk. I like that. I like that play. Alright, so we're going to swing, bring the whole team, and if they don't have a bolt or something, they're just dead. Abrade the Geist. Abrade is a card you don't really see that much brought in against us. I think they have enough like bolts. Abrade doesn't really, just like an overpriced bolt at that point. Alright, they're down to 1 life, and I think unless they draw Brotherhood's End and a removal spell, they're probably just dead from here. Yeah, and they scoop. Moving to game 3. Alright, we are back. Game 3. Round 3 against Murktide. What we got? Opening 7. A little slow, but we have interaction with the Thoughtseize on turn 1, so I actually like this. We're going to keep it. Hope they don't have a Ragavan. That's the card that punishes this hand pretty hard. No 1-drop. We're doing good. We drew our 3rd land. Also really good. Lead on this Thoughtseize. Hope it doesn't get spell pierced. It does not. The hand was 2 considers, a Bauble, a Murktide, and a land, I believe. Okay, there it is. Yes. Consider end of turn. Play a Dragon's Rage, which was a really good draw for them. Get another card in the graveyard with this Bauble. And they're off to the races. Chord also a good draw for us. We're in decent shape. Like, as long as they don't hit a Murktide on this turn. They've got 3 cards. They've looked at quite a few cards since we saw their hand. But next turn being able to Endurance, really, really strong. So they heat our wall, and we're going to respond with an Endurance here. I didn't see what we discarded. Okay, so, and a big reason why we do that is it shuts off the Delirium for the heat, so it keeps our wall alive. So I like that play there. And it shuts off Delirium for the Dragon's Rage. Alright, so they're forcing a couple cards here. They're going to attack in with this Dragon's Rage. They will consider, will block. It's interesting they did that before blocks were declared. No, I guess that makes sense. Because they're not going to try to kill the... Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Drawing another Endurance. A strong draw. Very strong draw. We like that. Okay. Eat their graveyard, pass the turn. They do nothing. 3 cards in hand. It feels like we're ahead at this point. Swing. Down to 15. Down to 14. Pass the turn. We've got an Endurance up on their turn. See if we need to use it. And I think we probably... Interesting no block there. I think I might block in that instance, but reasonable. Playing around a bolt. Fetch and do nothing. We're just going to keep beating down. And the reason we're not playing out the Endurance there, 1, they only have 1 card in the graveyard. 2, we don't want to feed their graveyard and give them looks at cards. So I like that move of not doing anything there. If they can't fill up their graveyard, their game plan's pretty anemic. We'll swing for 3, and here we're playing out the bird and passing the turn. Bolting the bird, put some cards into their graveyard. A little unfortunate. So I think there's an argument there to just hold the bird as well. I probably would have cast it too, but I think that is a thought that might go through one's mind in that instance. Alright, this feels like a Murktide, a Fury, ouch. And they just go straight for the wall roots, interesting. Cast another Endurance here. And now we're going to get Grist or Yawg into play. We opt for a Yawgmoth, we're going to swing for 6, kill the Fury, and I think we're really far ahead at this point. They'll consider, they'll dump nothing into the graveyard, interesting. Dress down, sure. We've got 3 card types in the graveyard, 4 card types. Here's an Unholy Heat, sure. And they have 3 cards in hand, and they're at 5 life. This is a very interesting game. I actually really like, I'm enjoying watching this game above and beyond actually commentating it. As a fan, I'm enjoying this one. Play out our Grist, we'll uptick. We got the board state. They don't have much going on. 4 cards. Shredder into Murktide, maybe? Shredder into Bolt. What are we bolting? Grist? Yes. Okay, Shredder's a 2/4. So we can't get through it with the Endurance here. They're leaving up a counter spell. Got our Dryad Arbor. I mean, if they can't kill the Grist, and Thoughtseize was actually a really good draw. The double hit on the Grist as well. So strong, so strong. That was huge right there. So here, this actually just represents lethal. So they counterspell, as long as they don't have a subtlety, Grist minus kill the Shredder and swing for lethal. We'll see if we get there. See if subtlety, aka Sheila, that's what we're calling subtlety. And we got there, 3-0. Nice, well played, I like it. We are back with round 4 of the Xerk Modern Challenge, playing against Audio 336. We've got a Karn as the avatar over here, a little bit suspect. Got our eyes out for Tron over there. Opening 7 is definitely not the strongest of hands, but I think this is a keep. It ramps and ramps quickly. Visagia you can almost treat as if it's a non-land spell. So I think it's a keep, but not the strongest of hands. We'll see what this is. See what happens here. Alright. Alright, turn 1. Opponent plays out a Misty. We're on the draw. We play out our Ignoble, pretty straightforward. Bird in hand. That was our draw step for the turn. They fetch Steam Vents and Bolt, so we're thinking right off the bat that this is Murktide. There's no companion on the other side of the battlefield, so for the second time this tournament, we're thinking Murktide. They fetch, shot, go down to 15, and pass the turn. So they're representing a counterspell here, and they draw off their Bauble during the upkeep. Second chord doesn't feel like a great draw in the moment, but if this is in fact Murktide, having instant speed spells is something that's really valuable. So in the short game, not great. In the long game, might be something that comes in handy. They're representing counterspell. Okay, they cast a Dress Down. Little weird, but that's fine. Not too big a deal. Just trying to cycle a card and take us off of an extra spell for the turn, I suppose. Play out their Dragon's Rage, Unholy Heat. They have Delirium already. They are firing on all cylinders. Another land drop for the turn, and pass the turn. Geist does the draw step, not terrible. We'll be able to double spell this turn, and the next turn we can kind of go a little bit crazy with Court of Calling if it resolves. You gotta love the flavor points, tapping the Swamp for a green mana, aka Bayou. No attacks there, can't attack through that Dragon's Rage. Steam Vents comes out, it's gonna bolt the bird, and passing the turn back. So here, feels like we're definitely behind. They have 3 cards in hand. They have the advantage with regards to the Dragon's Rage dealing damage, and they're going to fill up their hand here with this Expressive Iteration. Looks like they got the Delta off the Iteration, I'm guessing. Not 100% sure, but... And they are once again representing a counter spell. So at this point, they have 2 bolts, 1 heat in the graveyard. We just drew into Patra. They've looked at 18 cards so far, and they probably have 7 or 8 bolts in the deck. So chances of them having a bolt aren't super high, but I mean, I don't know. I always have the expectation that when I'm playing against this deck, whatever I play out is going to get bolted. Here it looks like they're going to counterspell this again, which is, in my mind, a little aggressive. Patra doesn't pose a huge threat, but I mean, I guess it all depends on what they have in hand. Okay, another iteration. Either they drew that or they had it. But I mean, if they had that in hand, I feel like counterspelling the Hepatra was unnecessary. Play out a second Channeler. They got 2 cards in hand. They do not have a counterspell up, which is nice. So if we can find ourselves a Grist or an Endurance. Endurance would be best case scenario, I suppose. So we need to pull a land off the top. We really need to pull a land off the top. Oh, okay. Yeah, we had the cord. Okay, that makes sense. So we had the cord for the Dryad Arbor. I wasn't paying attention to that line there in that moment. But now, so we can get Yawg, or we can get ourselves an Endurance. And while I think Endurance is the... Oh, this is one's a little bit tricky, because any non-creature spell they cast is going to put 3 cards into their graveyard. So they're going to get Delirium again really quick. So if we're going for Yawg, we have 1 turn to make it work. So, but I feel like getting Endurance is the play not to lose as opposed to playing to win. So I think you probably just get Yawg here. All right, he's going for Endurance. That's interesting. Shock, fetch, cord, Endurance. We'll see how this pans out here. Playing out Shredder, passing the turn. All right, and we drew into the Yawg, which is super nice. That works out really, really well. We'll attack. And if they have Counterspell, if they don't have Counterspell, this Yawgmoth is going to wreak havoc on their board state. And I don't think they do. They do. Brutal. Brutal. 3 cards into the graveyard, so they're almost at Delirium here. Lightning Bolt. That's Delirium, and this is going to be a lethal attack here. All right, so going to the post-sideboard games, prior to that, I'm curious how that game would have played out if we got Yawg in that moment as opposed to the Endurance. I think it's a really close call. It's a really tight call, but I think I probably would have gone for the Yawg there. But I mean, that's hard to make that judgment call. Let's see, post board. All right, so this is game 2. We are down a game, opening 7. Hand is solid. It's nothing special, but I think it's a keep. Likely sideboarded the same way that we did earlier in the match. We're going to lead on a Thoughtseize, and having gotten the swamp, that tells us that I didn't see what the 7 cards were. I'm sure Xerk will pull it up for us. Having gotten the basic swamp, we're preserving our life total, and we're either going Hepatra or Prosperous Innkeeper on our next turn. Strangleroot Geist is not an option. They lead on a Dragon's Rage. We play out our Hepatra, and they don't have any direct damage, which is actually really, really nice here. So if our Hepatra can connect, we're going to be able to kill this Dragon's Rage, or they just have to chump block with it. Turn 3 Grist, really strong draw. Once again, they don't have a counterspell here, so we'll see if we can take advantage of this. Their hand is definitely a little weak. All right, Dragon's Rage goes to the bin. We're going to get our Grist into play, or at least try to. They're going to fetch, see if they drew a counterspell here. Counterspell. All right. So they have 4 cards in hand. We know they have Iteration. I'm not sure if they have the Steam Vents or the Island. We know at least 3 of the cards in their hand. So Iteration, Subtlety, and Misty Rain. One of the lands. Not sure which one. Here's the Iteration we knew about. Consider is revealed. They'll use that right now. Put a card on top. And we're moving back to our turn. So now we're going to be able to get our beats on. I imagine we go Innkeeper into Geist and then play out the land tapped. Get an extra point of life off of this. And then we'll hit for 4. And then the question is, do you Hepatra and put a counter on the Geist, or do you not? You could also put a counter on the Hepatra. I don't think that that's great, though. We'll see what Xerk does here. Tough decision. All right, put it on the Geist. We're going wide. So the way that we get punished here is if there's like a Brotherhood's End. But if not, this is a very nice position to be in. We want to have our board state going wide. Especially with a Death Toucher, we can swing through a Shredder with that, which is nice. All right, and there's the Shredder. Speaking of, they play out a Polluted Delta. At this point, we know they have a Subtlety. Dump the push. To me, that says they don't have a counterspell. I think they would have cast it there if they had it. And now we're hitting for 7, and we're going to be able to put another counter on this Geist, so it will be back in action if it does go to the graveyard. And I think Xerk's going to be waiting for the fetch land here. Okay, not waiting for the fetch. Thought we were going to wait for the fetch there before casting Endurance. This is fine too. There's always the chance they don't fetch in that instance, so... They're at 5 life. I think they're going to be pretty hard pressed to answer this board state, and they scoop. 1-1. Game 3. Let's go. Alright, game 3. We're going to be on the draw, so we need them to not tempo us out here right off the bat. Opening 7. Okay. Okay, so this is really interesting. We're on the draw, and Xerk keeps this 7. We either really need one of these birds to survive, or we need to draw into a land. 1.5. So okay, all right. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. It's a little bit of a risky keep. We'll see if we pull a land. We do. Oh, nice. All right, play out the bird. Pass the turn. Turn 2. They're on a shredder. So they have a really aggressive hand here. We're gonna go wall into bird into Yawgmoth. So we're focusing on developing our board as opposed to being too concerned about this shredder here. So next turn, potentially all the mana in the world. And interesting that our opponent is tapping so low so early. It seems a little overly aggressive. They heat the wall, swing for 4, put us down to 13. Okay. So that's a tough spot to be in. Fury, they only have 1 card in hand though, so this Endurance is going to be really strong. Play out the Marsh that we just drew, Endurance their graveyard, take them off of Delirium, and now they have 1 card in hand, so let's hope. If you're a Murktide fan, you're hoping that's a good one. They're up to 2 cards. Swinging for 3, being really aggressive here. And then we can double spell, but we choose not to. We don't want to trigger that shredder. We don't want to optimize their card selection here. It feels like they're flooding out a little bit. And we could fetch here, but we choose not to. I think we're swinging for 3 again. Put them down to 6. Life total is dwindling. Pass the turn. Back to their turn. They do nothing. This is like rapid fire here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we get our Dried Arbor. From here, they have 2 blockers. We have 3 attackers. We'll be able to play out the Geist as well. So if we draw into another Geist, that would be lethal if they didn't have any form of interaction. The Grist is actually lethal as well. We'll see if this resolves. But I think we lead on the Geist, try to bait out a counterspell. Doesn't seem like they have one. We're moving to combat. Interesting that we're choosing to do this. Gotta block the Patron. You're gonna take a hit for 5. Nice. And it feels like we're really far ahead at this point. And they scoop. Okay. I think it was really interesting at the end of that game that we didn't play out the Grist, that we opted to just play the Geist and pass, or move to combat. I think I might have pushed the Grist there. Might have been a mistake, but they basically were signaling that they didn't have a counterspell, at least based on the way I was interpreting it. So I think I might have tried to push that Grist. They would have gotten an extra draw, but yeah, but then again, maybe, I mean, it shuts off our attack, so maybe that's not the right move. It's interesting. Interesting position to be in. So, well played, Xerk. Alright, we are back. This is round 5 of Xerk's Modern Challenge, currently 4-0, of course. We are going to be on the draw against Jositoshekel, and they have revealed a Gigantha. Opening 7 is solid. Pretty clear keep here. Let's see what they're doing. Power plant into Sphere. So we're playing against some Tron variant. We draw into an Evo, which is a really good draw. We're going to lead out Bird here, and then next turn try to double spell, and then third turn try to just go ham from there. Bird's in play. They'll crack the Sphere. Tower, scrying. Alright, so they got Tron next turn. No bueno. We play out our Swamp. I imagine Innkeeper, Yawgmoth, maybe the Hierarch. We'll see. Okay, there's the Hierarch, and pass the turn. Not over-committing onto the board, just in case they do have something like a Oblivion Stone, I guess, maybe. I think on my turn, I think I'm casting out that Wolf, just because if they have a Baby Karn, it invalidates this treasure token, so I think I'm going to cast out the Wolf in that instance, and just get my value out of it then and there. It plays well with Court of Calling too, so the mana, it kind of equates either way. But, you know, I think that's just what I would do in that instance. They revealed an Oblivion Stone off of the Ancient Stirrings they just cast. Play out a Relic, play out a Star, and they're going to pass the turn back. So not the most powerful turn for a Tron deck, given the fact they had 7 mana in play. We drew into an Endurance, which isn't terrible with a Chord of Calling in hand. So from here, we can go 1, 2, 3, sack the Innkeeper, get a Yawg, play a Wolf, 1, 2, 3, and we can get ourselves another Wolf, and we'll be close to infinite, but they have the relics, so that shuts us off of an infinite line. So we'll see what we do here. Wolf, sure. I wonder if we just swing with the Innkeeper and pass the turn. Play our land out. So that's 7 mana for a Yawg right there, if we want to chord for it. Looks like we're evoing, and this is going to be a Warping Wail. I think we're attacking with that Innkeeper first too, but it's likely not going to matter either way. Minor detail. Okay, we're passing the turn back. Pretty far behind at this point. They've got a bajillion mana. They add a green, 7, Karn, minus, take the Wolf, rude. Alright, and here we're going to... They're activating Karn, taking a card out of our hand. We're going to respond with an Endurance, Chord of Calling, get ourselves a Yawg. They have 4 cards in hand. I mean, I imagine you sacrifice the Endurance to draw a card, but it's just going to get stripped out of your hand here. Young Wolf gives you some options, though, if you want to keep this thing around. Give him another Young Wolf. There's an Oblivion Stone, and I think this is probably going to be game here. I think it's going to be hard to come back from this position. We'll see what Xerk does. Alright, we got a Grist. We're fighting the good fight. Fighting the good fight. Add a mana. We got ourselves a Chord. And we scoop from there. Tough to come back from that. Yeah, O-Stone at that point I think is just a trump card. Much like Ugin or Ulamog, that's really tough to beat. Game 2, round 5. We have our Necromentia, we're on the play. I think this is a keep for that reason. Definitely not a fast hand, but I think it's worth keeping. Turn 1 we can fetch, get an Overgrown Tomb. They have a map. So they're representing turn 3 Tron off the bat. Turn 2, here I think we go Innkeeper into Thoughtseize to take them off a Warping Wail if they have one. So we'll see if Xerk does this here. No, okay. Oh, well, yeah, I guess we have that line next this turn as well, having had the treasure. So we'll see what happens here. Ancient Stirrings, Scrying, Star, and Stonebrain. So you don't really care too much about the Scrying. The Star gives them the green mana they're looking for, but I guess they have the map in place so they can get that anyway. So I think you probably take the Stonebrain here. We'll see. Take a Stirrings. Interesting. Okay. And from here we're going to Necro. And hopefully call it game at this point. I'm curious why Xerk took the Stirrings there when it was a redundant card. But I guess Stonebrain, they're going to be playing from behind. You have Yawg in play next turn, so it probably doesn't matter too much. So I guess that maybe makes sense. I'm kind of just spouting off what's on the top of my head here instead of thinking through the lines very in great detail. But I guess that makes sense. Bring in the beats with the Innkeeper. Let's go. Fetch with the map. Get ourselves a power plant. Wait, they didn't get themselves a power plant. I don't know what they got themselves, but a Beseiju. Scrying. The responses in the corner here are a little bit behind, so not sure what they got. I imagine something like a Blast Zone probably makes sense. Alright, moving back to our turn. We're getting our Yawg into play, gaining a life off the trigger, swinging in for 1. Those Stirrings. They did get the Blast Zone off of the Scrying. Play out a Star, sacrifice it. A Relic, which isn't too relevant right now. And we have a second Chord of Calling, so from here, we can chord for 1, get a Wolf, but the Relic eats that. 1, get a Wolf, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we can get double Wolf here, but we need them to tap out to do that. All right, we just passed. So we're playing towards that line, so we're hoping that they tap out or pop the Relic, and then we're going to respond and try to kill them from there. But This play is telegraphing that we do have a Court of Calling. And I mean, that's no fault of Xerk's, it's just, you know, just kind of what you have to do if you're looking to have that line. So our opponent should read into that and know that in this moment. Activate the relic. Get rid of a land. Okay. And they see it. They see that that's what we're trying to do. Pop a star. Play another tower. Play a stone. And now we're going to go for it. I think we can get Hapatra here as well, which will give us some lines that we otherwise wouldn't have had access to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Liberator. That works too. That also works. Sack the Liberator, hit the stone, move back to our turn. Evo is a really good draw. So we'll Evo. Okay, so we'll Chord, get ourselves a Geist, or a Wolf, and then Evo the Wolf. They'll pop the Relic here. Makes sense. And I wonder, do we get ourselves a Geist or a Grist? Okay. Got ourselves a Grist. Alright, so they're kind of playing slow mode over there. They'll pop the Stone Brain. We don't really care at this point. They name Strangleroot Geist. Help yourself. Alright, we draw into a Young Wolf, which is a really good draw, and we're just pretty close to infinite at this point. We have a bunch of draws to find ourselves. Just a way to win the game at this point. So, I think we're going to draw a couple cards. Wall of Roots, Thoughtseize, Hapatra. Hapatra is infinite at this point. They should see the writing on the wall, and hopefully they scoop from this point. Alright, Double Wolf. And we can just draw as many cards as we want from this point forward. Power of Hapatra, the power of Prosperous Innkeeper, the power of Black-Green Yawgmoth. Like, this is just the greatest feeling in the world. When you do this, it just feels so good. Just your board expanding and growing bigger, and your opponent, Dunzo. Alright, we drew into the Court here. Our opponent scoops. Okay, game over. Moving to game 3. Alright, we have arrived. Game 3, 1-1. We are currently, I want to say 4-0 or 5-0 in this. I think we're 4-0 right now. I think this is match 5. Opening 7 is good. We're leaning pretty heavy on this Thoughtseize and hoping to draw into another land off the top as well. They go turn 1 Power Plant into Star. We did draw our land, so we'll have Beseiju up if we want it as well, depending on what this Thoughtseize shows. Star they crack. This is either going to be a Stirrings. Oh, okay. I was expecting Stirrings or a Scrying. They go Stone Brain. So we can hit that. So I think this turn we're going Thoughtseize, see what they're working with, and then probably Beseiju the Stone Brain. Alright. So their hand, I saw a Veil of Summer. I saw the Stirrings, there's 2 lands. They had another card. I don't know what the other card was. We're going to Beseiju the Stone Brain right now. Alright, so we're going during the draw step. Hit the Stone Brain. Okay, the last card in their hand was an Oblivion Stone, I guess? Alright, they play out a land. They do not have Tron. Play out the stone that we knew about, and we drew into a Blood Artist. Alright, so we'll play out our Yawg on this turn, pass the turn. They're up to 5 land. They're going to crack the stone right here and now. We'll draw a card off of that. Just drew into a land. Drew another Yawg, which is nice. We'll play out our pretty much our entire hand, and the next turn, depending on what they do, we will be in decent shape. Okay, so they're going to Blast Zone, blow up our creatures after using a map and finding themselves a 3rd Tron piece. So they have Tron online. Creatures are gone. They'll take 2. Okay, and Dry Harbor actually wasn't a bad draw there. It was the only creature in our deck that we can cast given the board state. They draw another Oblivion Stone. They're blowing things up again. We'll draw 2 cards. Draining Gain for 2. Definitely a little bit behind here. Okay, drew a land and a Young Wolf. They drew a map. And at this point, we know about the Veil of Summer, and I think that's the only card we know in their hand. I think we're drawing a card off this Peatland. Drew into a Hapatra, so it's a threat, it's something. Play out both the cards in our hand, both the creatures, and then pass the turn. They only have 1 card in hand, so it's the Veil of Summer, so they need to draw into something. They use the Veil to draw a card to cycle end step. They're playing out a Sanctum, which they got off of an Expedition map. And now they have Big Karn, which spells Big Trouble. Alright. Drew our Ignoble, and we scoop. And that is going to be our first loss of this tournament, unfortunately. So, but sometimes the Tron matchup just goes like that. All right, round 6. We are playing against SolMBAGallade. We are on the draw. Our opening 7, our first 7 was a mulligan. The 6-card hand, pretty sketchy. Pretty sketchy. Feels bad mulligan to 5, but I think you have to here. Okay, we're keeping it. We're riding the Young Wolves to victory here. All right, they lead Blood Crypt, Shock, Ragavan. Good thing we have Young Wolves in our hand. Drawn to a Dryad Arbor. Not great. Not what we're looking for. Young Wolf hits the battlefield. We pass the turn. Okay, there's the Malakir land. We'll see if they attack him with this Ragavan. Okay, they're getting aggressive. So they're representing Undying Spell on the Ragavan. There it is. Ragavan comes back. Young Wolf comes back. Still kind of at parity here. Play out the Wolf, and then I think we play out the Catacombs most likely. Give ourselves a basic land just in case they have a Blood Moon. They're going to Fury. We'll see if they have an Undying Spell here. Another one. They do not. They fetch. Blood Moon. Good thing we had our Catacombs. So we do have all of our colors of mana, and we do have a Beseiju, which is nice. So we'll be able to deal with that. Can't imagine they're swinging with that Ragavan. Play out our Forest, play out our Arbor, and pass the turn back. Okay, they terminate our Wolf. They're swinging for 3. We're going to let that hit happen. And they get a land off the top. So nothing too fancy. And from here, so they have no cards in hand. They have a Ragavan in play. We have Hierarch, Dryad Arbor, Forest, Cradle. So we can get ourselves a Grist, which shuts off this Ragavan for at least a few turns, and then we can get rid of the Blood Moon whenever we're ready. Could also get something like a Geist, which isn't that great. I think we probably get a Grist here. We'll see if Xerk feels the same way. Okay, there's the Grist. Plus, play out a land, double hit. We'll pass the turn. We're in the money here. Drew into a Wolf. Now we can minus kill this Ragavan if we want to. And we can start beating. But we're just going to build out the board state a little bit more. They swing in with the Ragavan. They have 1 card in hand. Double block. They'll bring it back into play for the 2nd time this game. Not the end of the world. Plus our Grist up again. Swing for 2. Pass the turn back. So as it stands, they have 1 card in hand. We have 6 creatures in our graveyard. We're ahead on life. We're doing pretty well here. I mean, the trump card is always something like a Fury, but even a Fury in this instance doesn't get rid of the Grist and doesn't get rid of our entire board. So I think we're doing all right. Second Grist, not bad. We'll swing for 2 with the Insect. Pass the turn back. They're at 12 life. Play out a land, and they just scoop. They say, hey, we can't beat a Grist. You got us. I didn't think we were going to win that game based on how it started. Moving on to game 2. All right, double Geist, Hierarch, Dryad Arbor, 3 lands. This is a keep. You don't feel great about it, but you don't want to mulligan against this deck if you don't have to. Got basics to use, which is nice. Bloodstained Mire's Sacred Foundry. Wasn't expecting that one, and to a Ragavan. All right, we'll play out the Hierarch here, pass the turn. Off of a basic, pass it back to them. Taking a hit for 2. They grief us. We'll see if they have an Undying Spell. I would imagine they do. And here, we're going to Endurance and get rid of it. They only have 1 card. So I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake on our opponent's part. A little bit forced. Play out our Geist here. We got a blocker back for the Ragavan. And then from here, we've kind of just stonewalled everything they're doing. And now we can build out our board. As long as they don't hit a Fury, I think we're doing all right. Swing for 4 with this Geist, put them on a clock. Contemplating blocks, they do not. Got our Wolf, got our land, so we've got all our basics if we want them. Or actually not all of our basics, because Xerk is running a third Forest this league. And they pull a Fury off the top. All right, so here it's not the end of the world. We'll still have 2 of our Undyers. We fetch EOT. And then we're moving back to our turn. Fatal Push doesn't get rid of Fury, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But we just have to pass the turn. And take a hit for 6. going down to 9, and they have 1 card in hand. Best draw from them is like a Seasoned Pyromancer, and Ooze. Ooze is huge. That's so good. That's so good. So we'll swing for 3. We'll play out the Ooze. We're going to go up to 10 life, and this actually represents lethal next turn. So if they can't get rid of this Ooze, we can just kill them next turn. 3-3, 3-6, yeah. So we'll go down to 4, and then they play out a Grief. Okay, so that cuts us off the win there. And a wall. Wall is also a really, really strong draw. So that serves as a blocker and gives us 2 activations for the Scavenging Ooze. We'll swing, they'll block with the Grief. Gives us more stuff to eat. Put the Ooze up to a 5-5, go down to 3. So we're at 6, they're at 3. So we're at a range from their lethal attack at this point because we can eat a card with the Ooze. So they are swinging, we're going to block. We'll eat. Ooze is a 6-6, and unfortunately they have a Terminate for the Ooze. And now they have taken control. Pyromancer, really good draw. Ugh, this feels bad. This is dirty. This deck is so dirty. Alright, Innkeeper, we lose that one. That was a tough one to lose. It felt like we were winning that. Felt like we had them as long as they didn't pull something really good off the top. Moving on to game 3. Alright, game 3, we're up. Let's go. Opening 7, this is a keep. We're going to lead on a Thoughtseize here, which is nice to take them off of their scam stuff if they have any, and they molt to 6 too, so it makes it even better. Let's see what they got. Nahiri, the new Nahiri. I honestly don't even know what that does. Lightning Bolt to Seasoned Pyromancer. If I knew what Nahiri did, I'd be able to tell you what to do here, but I don't. So I'm guessing it's probably between Nahiri and Pyromancer. Take the Pyromancer, pass the turn. Bloodstained Mire. So to me that says, like, if they're playing that Nahiri, they don't have Blood Moon in the deck, which is good to know about. Drawing into Yawg, not a bad draw. We're going to fetch, play out our wall, and then pass the turn. We're getting a swamp there so we can cast our Yawg if we need to. 2 black sources. Blood Crypt and pass Godless Shrine tapped. We knew about that. Moving back to our turn. We draw another basic. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. So here we can cast out our Yawg, play out another Wall of Roots. So we can go Wall of Roots into Grist, and I think that's probably the best play at this point. So we're going to build out our board state before we put our Yawg into play. We risk it getting discarded, but I think this is the way to play this one. Just so you can guarantee value off the Yawg when you play it. So they waste a bolt on this Grist here, so they're going to try to bolt it again on their turn. So Xerk just left us a message. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it said moments before disaster, unhappy face. We'll see what happens here. We will see. That is foreshadowing. Fetch with a Vista. Play land. Play. That is brutal. That is brutal. Necromentia. And I wonder what they're naming there. I think Xerk made the right move here despite that happening like that. So that is just really unfortunate that our opponent was able to do that. We'll get a zombie for our troubles. We'll swing in for 3. We still have our Grist. Yeah, that's a rough one. All right, what does this Nahiri do? Exile target creature or equipment card with mana value less than Nahiri, the Unforgiving's loyalty from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy. All right, so it came in with 5. We're going to exile the Pyromancer, make a copy, has haste. They'll draw 2, discard 2, discard another Nahiri. It's pretty strong, and we're pretty straightforward jump block here. So that gets exiled. All right, so we're in a rough spot here. We have a redraw with the Peatland. We have an uptick with the Grist, most likely. I think we're swinging. They're at 13. This is a tough one. I feel like you kind of have to get rid of this Nahiri, but at the same time, you definitely don't want to dump your Grist. So that's kind of like all you've got going. They have 2 cards in hand. They have a Croaks in the graveyard too. I think you have to uptick this Grist, unfortunately. I don't think you can get rid of it. So I think we're going to attack into this Nahiri. Interesting blocks from our opponent. We'll uptick the Grist, pass the turn. They draw 1, or they discard a card and then draw a card, and they drew into another Pyromancer, which is kind of brutal. They're drawing hot off the top. 2 more tokens. We're leaning on this Grist here. Grist Ultimate, let's go. Do have a pretty good board state at this point. We will be able to swing down this Nahiri. We'll just swing our creatures. Alright, they want their elemental tokens, so they don't block anything. Play out our land and pass the turn back. Bloodstained Mire fetches. They have 1 card in hand. They fetch. This is a Kroxa here. Kroxa is going to hit us for 3. Yes, okay. So Kroxa is big, so they can recur that next turn, even if we do get rid of it. So we'll go down to 14. The life isn't super relevant right now, but just the fact that it's a big body on the board. Okay, and that's really strong. So here, I think we probably minus the Grist, sacrifice, maybe we sacrifice a wall? The wall with the least amount of counters on it. And then Endurance the Kroxa. Okay, so we're dumping the Geist here, which is also reasonable. We're swinging with the team. Okay, swinging for 5. Okay, so, okay, I get it. We're baiting. We want them to put the Pyromancer in the graveyard because we're going to Endurance it away. So I see what you're doing here, Xerk. Well played, well played. Play out our Endurance. We'll shuffle the graveyard back away so they don't get that value. We call that bait. That's what we call that. Cast a Grief. Pretty much a vanilla 3-2 at this point. They have 1 card in hand. Thoughtseize them. They fatal push the zombie token that they gave us. That's fine. They don't have any cards in hand at this point. And from here, I think we attack the Endurance. See if they double block it. They do, which we're fine with. And now they're on a 2-turn clock from here if they don't pull anything. And they pull a Fury, of course. This is brutal, this game. Alright, so we don't have anything from here, so we just kind of have to sit tight. Block the Fury with an Insect. They're going to pass back. They draw into a Hearse. Okay. I feel like our opponent has been drawing pretty well the last 2 games. Alright, they Hearse, they eat a couple things. They're going to move to draw. Attacking with Fury again. We'll block again. Another Grief. So they've had 3 turns in a row with like cards that do things. We've drawn 3 lands in a row, and then Ooze comes to the rescue. Wow. So they're going to eat some stuff with Hearse before that comes into play, but that is a huge draw, and we're going to eat a bunch of stuff. We've got these Wall of Roots ready and able to help. That was the best case scenario. We got a 6/6 Ooze. Let's go. As long as they don't draw Terminate at this point. Alright, so we're putting some walls into the graveyard. And the reason we're doing that is because that can pump our Ooze, so we can actually potentially get up to lethal here. Alright, so they drew another Fury, which is like their 4th draw step in a row with something relevant. But at least we can block it down with this Ooze here. Okay, so our Ooze is now a 7/7, so it's a must block. We draw into a Geist. Play that out. I wonder, do we attack from here? We do not. So that was an interesting moment. They Hearse targeting 2 non-creature spells. And I could be mistaken, but I think Xerk ate those there to prevent the Hearse from growing. So viewing the Hearse as a legitimate threat at this point as well. We'll eat the Wall of Roots, put the Ooze up to an 8/8. Our life total is growing. And we'll play out our Wall of Roots that we just drew here. So a little bit of a stalemate. We're really leaning heavily on this Ooze. Need to make sure that they do not kill this Ooze. Terminate is like their best draw at this point. Same thing as the previous turn. Another Pyromancer. They're just retooling and refueling, drawing good cards. I wonder if our opponent feels guilty at all for their draws that they're getting here. Second Hearse, they have 1 card in hand. Murderous Cut. Okay, how do we use that? They don't have an Undying spell up. We can swing it with the Ooze, prompt a double or triple block, and then cut one of the Furies, but that doesn't put the Ooze out of range if they block with like Fury, Grief. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. Maybe we just hang tight. Yeah, we just hang tight. Passing the turn back. This is a long game. There's a lot going on here. Another grief. Sure. Keep drawing. They haven't drawn a land in I don't know how many turns. Alright, we're going to use that cut. We're going to kill a Fury right here and now. They get nothing off the grief, but they once again have another creature on the board. And we'll have something to eat with this ooze. 9/9 ooze. We're at 17 life. We don't have any Yawgs in the deck though, so use the ooze to eat the cut so they can't eat it with the hearse. Everybody is graveyardless at this point. And we're just going to pass the turn again. Nothing happening. My board state against your board state. Who wins? They finally draw land. Or play land at least. Alright, we drew an Endurance, which is fine. Doesn't do too much. Kind of just like a vanilla 3/4 at this point in the game, but not terrible. They cast a Nahiri. Okay, we'll see what this results in. They're exiling. I don't know what that just did, but they targeted the Hepatra with an ability. Alright, thank you. Xerk, thank you. You know I don't know what it does. Until your next turn, up to one target creature attacks a player each combat if able. So they targeted the Hepatra here. That's interesting they went for the Hepatra and not the ooze. But I guess they're just going to try to like chip down the board state turn by turn. So we're kind of in a little bit of a predicament at this point. We need to draw ourselves into like a Grist or a Cord, a Veil. So Hepatra has to attack here. At least, I mean, it will result in us drawing a card or gaining a life with the ooze. They try to eat it with the hearse. We're going to eat it with the ooze. They're going to try to eat it with the hearse. We're going to eat it with the ooze. Back and forth. This, that, and the other. They're fetching here down to 8. Not sure why. Ooze is huge. They got some filtering with this Nahiri. Not exactly sure how we're winning this game. Feels like a Grist is necessary. Alright, so Xerk is starting to take the line of ticking down the wall of roots. We're looking to dump those into the graveyard so we can eat them with the ooze and grow it bigger. And I like that. That's something that when ooze is in play, it's definitely something you need to have on your radar. So that's a smart play. Alright, they're going to bolt our Geist here. And then they're going to try to eat it with the hearse. We're going to eat it with the ooze. I feel like I've said that a million times this match already. It's a big ooze. Getting mighty oozy these days. Alright, Nahiri targets the Endurance. Endurance is going to be attacking. But at least it will take something out on the way. So it'll be a 4/5. Let's see what it does. What do you block with? Oh, they're going to block with a hearse. Okay. So hearse is a 4/4? Alright, so they're double blocking. Hearse and Grief will kill the Grief, and we'll grow our ooze even bigger here. I guess the way we're winning this is just a giant ooze. 13/13 at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. End step. Kaya's Guile. Each opponent. I don't know what that does either. I've definitely played against the card. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Exile target opponent's graveyard. Create include in a weird moment to use it. I feel like our opponent was getting a little itchy to use it. Alright, so grow our ooze to a 13/13. Opponent gets their spirit token. They play out a Dauthi Voidwalker. Swing for 1, put us down to 20 at this point. Time is running thin here. Alright, we have an Ignoble. I think we're kind of at a point where we have to attack. With our 14/14. They have to block. Seasoned Pyromancer dies. They put some 2/2s into, or 2/1/1s into play. And they pass the turn. We have 30 seconds left on the clock. Ooze is gone, and we scoop it up. We lose to this monstrosity of a deck. Alright, we're back. Round 7 of Xerk's Modern Challenge. We are currently 4-2, I believe. Okay, this is the quarterfinals, apparently. I guess the Swiss was 6 rounds, unless I missed something. Maybe I missed something. 4-2. I don't know. Alright, let's see how this goes. Usually the challenges are like at least 7 rounds, so I might have missed counting something. Opening 7 in the quarterfinals. We're playing against an Obosh deck. This is a hand we definitely can't keep, so we'll be shipping that one back. 6 we can't keep. 5-card hand. This one's actually solid. We're going to go Forest, Ignoble, Geist, probably the Mire, I would guess. We'll see. Yeah, okay. So they lead basic mountain. They're on the play and lead on a Ragavan, which is unfortunate, but you win some, you lose some, you know? It's going to ramp them into their turn, or their 3-drop, because they only have odd-numbered creatures, or cards in there. Draw our second basic forest, which is nice. Play out our Geist, and we'll pass the turn from there, hoping to dodge another Spike Field Hazard. They get a Fable into play, pass the turn. They're not swinging with that Ragavan for obvious reasons. And turn 3, I think we're going to get our Grist into play. And I wonder if we dump the Goblin or we plus. And we plus here, which makes sense. We have Geist as a blocker for the Goblin. We have Insect for the Ragavan. As long as they don't have something like a Fury, we're okay here. Okay, Fable, they'll discard 2, one of which is a Pyromancer, which is a card that's relevant to think about in the graveyard. Blood Moon comes down. They're swinging with both their creatures, really aggressive. And I imagine we're blocking with both of our creatures. All right, they bolt the Insect. Our Geist dies. I don't love that attack from our opponent. I think that was a little overly aggressive. I think they should have waited on that one. We'll plus our Grist, play out another Geist, swing for 3, and pass the turn back. We have a blocker for this Ragavan. All right, they're wiping our board. So that's likely why they made the attack on the last turn. But I don't know. At the time, didn't feel great. They have another Pyromancer, and they're swinging at Grist for 2. From here, we're going to Grist down the Reflection, I guess, and then we're going to put our Endurance into play. So we're sacrificing our Grist here for the greater good. And depending on whether or not if they're not attacking the Grist with both of the creatures, they're going to get got here. But if they are, they'll get the Grist still. We'll block. Okay, they got greedy. They got a little greedy. They did not attack at Grist. I think that might be something that winds up costing them the game. They put Obosh in the hand. And from here, so we have the Boseiju up to dump the Moon. And I wonder if we do that in this instance. We do, and we're going to get this Blood Artist into play. So we know about Obosh in hand. Not a fan of their mismatching lands here. All right, so they hazard, Flame Slash, got all the gas. We are going to block with this Blood Artist if they're attacking into this Grist. And they can't cast their Obosh that's in hand that we know about. All right, drew another Grist, just fine, nothing great. Really want a Yawg at this point. That's the draw we want. All right, they cast a second Ragavan. Still not casting out the Obosh unless they discarded it. Maybe I missed them discarding it to a Fury. Play our Hepatra, uptick, Pyromancer comes into play. Maybe this is the Obosh. Okay, so this makes sense. So this is a lot of damage at this point. 2, 4, 6, 8. Block. Kill some things. Maybe I'm misremembering the text on Obosh. I'd have to read that one. I thought it doubled the damage though. Maybe it's only when it deals it to a player. And Yawg was, that was our best draw because now that wipes the board. And we can recover here. We can draw a ton of cards, wipe their board, and this is what we call a comeback. This deck is just so resilient, so good. I don't think we played a land for turn yet. I could be mistaken. And if we did not, we can now chord, get another token with this Hepatra. Oh, I guess we didn't in this instance. Of note, our Blood Artist is gone, so we still have our Innkeeper in the deck, which is nice. Okay, they're gonna stomp, targeting. Our Hepatra's in the way. All right, they stomp, hit the Hepatra. I guess they draw a card and then they just scoop it from there. Game over. Moving to game 2. Quarterfinals. Let's go. All right, we are back. A timely Yawgmoth saved us that game. Game 2, hugo.viani. We are up a game, quarterfinals, opening 7. A little slow. If they have a Ragavan here, that's not great for us, but they do not. We're going to lead on our Marsh and pass the turn. They can't cast a turn 2 Blood Moon, so we don't have to worry about that too much. We will get our Misty into play next turn, I imagine. Okay, okay. Wasn't what I was expecting there, but I guess because we have the Wall of Roots, it gives us a little bit of freedom. I think I probably would have played out the Misty and fetched basic there, just to play around a Blood Moon. And they go turn. So this is why you don't do what I just recommended, and that's because it does take you off of playing Yawgmoth. So I would have gotten punished had I taken that line, but Xerk made the right play there. All right, so we got our Yawg in play here. I imagine that's what we're doing, given the fact they have the Stone Brain in play. So there that is, and we will pass the turn. As long as we can dodge a Fury or a Flame Slash, which I believe we saw last game, we will be able to go a little bit crazy next turn. All right, there's a Flame Slash. Dump the Stone Brain in response, so that's nice. They did not, that was a really, really nice sequence there. So Stone Brain you can only activate at sorcery speed, so they were anticipating Flame Slash, activate the Stone Brain, take us off the rest of the Yawgmoths. But Xerk played around it very well. Left up the Boseiju, dumped the Stone Brain in response to the Flame Slash. So knowing that they needed to kill the Yawg for the Stone Brain to be relevant, brilliant play there. Well done, well done. All right, they play out a vanilla 4-3, and then they pass the turn. And then on our next turn, I don't know if that was edited out or not, but if you saw that, I apologize. It's late. We'll play out our Ignoble here, and I think we're going to leave our Endurance back most likely. Delete a card with the Relic. And we're just going to take a hit for 4, I believe. If I had to guess. We're fine with that. We will be fetching a basic in this instance, though. Play out a Fable. We're going to stomp our Geist, or our Hierarch. We'll Endurance in response. Not really a reason to do it in that moment outside of just F6 value, but it's fine. Moving back to our turn. Thoughtseize. They have one card in hand. We'll use the Thoughtseize. Get that Fury out of here. Play our Liberator. And we're dumping the Fable, or no? We are not. Thought about it for a moment, though. Reason not to do that is because it gives us Chord for 4 potentially next turn. But looks like that's not the line we're taking. Another Fable. Okay. Okay, double Fables, a little problematic. We have the Force of Vigor to deal with them. So the reason we're waiting here is because it's going to flip the Trap Breaker. Now we'll kill both the Fables, and we'll have a 3/3 blocker back, which they promptly bolt. And it feels like we're losing this one. Going down to 5. Guys, not a terrible draw. Not going to save us, though, I don't think. We'll swing with the team, and we're scooping that one up. Game 3. All right, game 3 of the quarterfinals. Let's hope we get this one. I think we will. I think we will. Our opening 7. Oh. Definitely keepable. We don't have any basics. We don't have any fetches, but I think this is a keep here. Lead on our Hierarch. Hope that it survives. They lead basic Mountain, and they bolt our Bird Imitation. Moving back to our turn. Basic Swamp. So there's our basic. Not the one we wanted, but that's fine. And I think we're going to go Geist here and hit for 2, if I had to guess. And then next turn we'll go... We'll have options next turn. Put them down to 18. Darn. That's the only reason we wouldn't attack on the previous turn, but I don't think that the possibility of this happening is worth us not attacking. So I think I still would have attacked there, knowing that this was a possibility. They get a treasure, they play out a Relic with the treasure, Ragavan goes back to hand. Still attacking, still bringing the beats. We're going to play out a Liberator. Okay, no, we're going to play out our Endurance, which gives us a little bit of insurance against a Fury here. They read into it, they see the play. Pyromancer, discard the Ragavan, pass the turn. They have 4 cards in hand. Play out our Endurance, we'll shuffle their graveyard, or shuffle our graveyard. And then now we're moving back to our turn. Most mana efficient plays, Liberator and one of our 1-drops. Does leave us a little more open to a Fury. just because Yawgmoth can recur. So I wonder if we go Yawgmoth Hierarch here. Probably Yawgmoth Hierarch if I had to guess. Yeah, okay. And then we swing for 4. Nope, we're leaving the cord up. Leaving the cord back. Okay, Hazard or Geist, which is annoying. Stomp the Hierarch, also annoying. Relic. Just everything they're doing is just super annoying. Cut it out, bro. Alright, here we're just gonna mana efficient plays, get all of our creatures out. They only have 2 cards in hand, so the hope is that they don't have more removal. And do they have a Fury? They have a Bone Crusher, which I guess we knew about. That was an exile. And now from here we have a Yawgmoth, so we are going to take this moment and use it. 3 for a Fable. I don't think that's going to be good enough for our opponent. So now what looked like us being behind, now we are about to pull very far ahead. Very far. Like farther than far ahead. Like infinitely far. Yawgmoth. Sure. Eat it. Be my guest. Draw a card if you want to. Hepatra. Sure. And now, the moment of reckoning has come. Sorry, my friend. So for us, we're also looking for another black source so we can just proliferate everything down. Wouldn't be a bad thing, but I think we're going ham here, play out the Blood Artist, and this is lethal from here. So our opponent's dead. And this will move us on to the semifinals, which is nice. We're back up. This is the semifinals of Xerk's challenge. We're playing against 416 Frowning Table. Opening 7. We are on the draw. They've revealed a Gigantha. Our opening 7, a little sketchy against a Gigantha deck. Xerk opts to keep it. I probably would have shipped this one. I probably would have shipped it. I'm not that daring, but clearly I'm no Xerk. So they fetch Breeding Pool, Nacatl, so they're playing Domain. We did not draw land. We're going to lead on our bird, I would imagine. Hope that this bird sticks around for an extra turn. It does not. They bolt the bird. They swing with the Nacatl. If we draw land, we're okay. We do not. There's a Hierarch. Binding, take the Hierarch, play out a land tapped, hit for another 3. It's always funny when you ask for a land and then your deck gives you Dryad Arbor. Not what you want. We're in a bit of trouble here. They have 3 cards in hand though. I guess if they don't do anything. Alright. We draw a land and the board state isn't too terribly out of control. So from here we can go Wall of Roots into Geist, and then next turn Yawgmoth and Yawg, and then try to kill from there. Alright. Opponent plays a Dramoka's Command. Haven't seen that one since 98, I don't think. 1/1 on one of their creatures. They fight our wall. So we're going to take a hit for 5. Life total is getting dangerously low here. So this is like, we're down to 6. This is Tribal Flames range at this point. We're close to it. Alright, we're opting for Grist first. The reason why is we're getting rid of this Brawler, which has Trample. Just trying to stay alive. Definitely taking that trade. Play out another Brawler. Drew another Grist. And I guess we're going to dump this Brawler again. Yes, Grist, keep it, dump, swing for 1, pass the turn. This is quite a game. They have 4 mana, play out a Scion. They're lacking land types. They only have three basic land types in play. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that Scion was a little bit more expensive than it would normally be. And we drew into a cord here, so we can go plus Grist, Yawg, or do we just like plus Grist, leave the bird back, and then just try to cord for a Yawg? I think that's probably the move. So we'll fetch. Okay, we're not fetching right now. We're going to cord for 2. Get our Blood Artist. Okay, and we're trying to kill next turn. Another Scion. Okay, looks like we're getting this one. Looks like we're going to get it. So from here, Endurance actually not a bad draw because that represents an extra 2 draws. So we'll start with our Yawg. Sacrifice the Dryad Arbor, target the wolf, drain and gain. We're going to target one of these Scions from here, start dumping them down. Drew a land. Okay, there's our Endurance. I guess we already plus the Grist this turn. They're at 8, we're at 5. We didn't play a land for the turn, so we're going to go... So we're just chaining any one drop that we draw here and just trying to draw as many cards as possible and get rid of one of these Scions. Okay, so our opponent's at 4, we're at 5. We're going to kill this Scion. They're down to 3. We sacrificed the Grist, sacrificed one of our creatures, killed the other Scion, which dealt them 2, and then from here we can just sacrifice the Blood Artist for the kill. So, Blood Artist, very, very relevant with regards to it dealing damage with the other player's creatures. Something our good friend Zulaport Cutthroat does not do. We're moving on to game 2. We're up a game. A little bit of a risky keep game 1, and it got there. Game 2. Opening 7. We have interaction. I think we keep this. I think we keep it. Opponents on the play. They'll be down on wooded foothills. No Nicodle on their side of the battlefield. We're going to fetch, get a basic, I would imagine. And the reason we're doing is that we're preserving our life total. Oh, and they mulligan pretty low here. I would imagine you probably take the Scion. It's their only threat. And they are a little anemic here. They only have 3 cards in hand. We know what they are. We have a Tribal Flames for 5. They dumped that early on something like this Wall of Roots. We're perfectly fine with that given the way our hand lines up against that. They have all their land types. They're going to bolt and pass. So they're saving that Tribal Flames for our Yawgmoth. But here I think we're probably going to go Innkeeper into Geist if I had to guess. There's the Innkeeper. Make a treasure. Here's our Geist. We'll gain a life, which is actually really relevant against this deck. Swing in for 2, and then we'll pass the turn. So they have 2 cards in hand, and we know that one of them is a Tribal Flames. I'll fetch, get another land, and they really need to pull a threat at this point. And even if they do, if they tap, so they drew a threat, but they tapped down to the point where they can't cast their Tribal Flame. So now our Yawg has the potential to go pretty crazy. And they're not representing a binding either, so we know that that's not a possibility, so we can just go ham from here. And drawing into Patra, once we're in a position where we can cast that, which we'll get 1, 2, 3 draw steps to be able to do that. If that's what we pull, we're pretty much just infinite from there. So we're in a really, really good position. So land gives us a Patra, and then Hepatra, yeah, there we go. So this is just, I think, pretty much game from here. I don't think our opponent's coming back from this one. So with the Innkeeper, this is infinite in terms of we're not losing any life each time through, and we're getting our board wider and wider and wider, and our opponent is just so far behind at this point. They are not winning this one. All right, there's our chord, and we got it. We got it. We're moving on to the final. OMG, y'all, we're in the finals. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? I think y'all would have guessed it. All right, finals. We are playing against Audio 336. We are on the play. Opening 7 was a mole, and then we're going to keep our 6-card hand, which is fine on the play, a little bit slow on the draw, but fortunately we're on the play, so we're keeping it. Our opponent leads on a Spire Bluff into a Ragavan. I've seen this quite a few times over the course of this this challenge. We do not fetch, and now we will fetch. I wonder if that was a misclick there, not getting the Overgrown Tomb during the end step. Going double basic forest. We got our Geist. It's going to stop this Ragavan dead in its tracks. And our turn, we have our Grist. They don't have any cards in the graveyard, so I think we can just Grist plus pretty safely here. Pass it back. They're going to bolt the Grist down, put a card in the graveyard. Moving back. This feels like an iteration. Still 2 card types in the graveyard. The iteration will make 3. Doesn't look like they can make 4 here. So we'll at least get another turn out of our Grist, which is going to be really, really good. So from here, this gets us Yawg, as long as they don't have a Spell Pierce. Okay, well, now we hit a double with our Grist. It always feels so good. That's always so wonderful. So here we can play out the Peatland, play out the Bird, wait for them to fetch, and then chord. I think that's probably the game plan here, because we can't play around a Spell Pierce. And if they do chord, or if they do fetch, they're going to leave themselves open for a Yawg, and then we can kind of go crazy from there. We'll give them Delirium if they fetch. They choose not to. Okay, they're in the finals for a reason. They're going to swing with the Ragavan. We'll block. We'll make that trade. Happy to do so. And now we're going to chord. We have 2 chords, so we have a little bit of freedom here. And in this instance, so the reason we're doing that there is because it eats their turn, so they can't do anything for the rest of the turn now, having done that, and we have the chord up on our turn. So we're in a position where we can kind of go crazy. And we were getting an endurance there, playing around Spell Pierce. Our opponent fetch plays it out tapped, and then plays out a snow-covered island, so they are representing Spell Pierce here. But we have drawn into Eldritch Evolution, so we can play around that. Well, plus, we're going to Evo away our Geist, and our opponent scoops. I think they're pretty far behind at that point. So we're up a game in the finals. Let's go. All right, game 2 of the finals, opening 7. We've boarded the same way. I think this is our 3rd time against Murktide so far this challenge. Same board strategy as we have done previously. Opening 7, I think this is solid. I think it's a keep. Yeah, it does the job. So we'll see how this goes. Nothing too special here, but it's fine. So turn 1, I think we go. Okay, so we're gonna play out the bird here. I think they mulligan down to 6. If this were me, I think I probably would have led with a push here. But I guess if they have a shredder, that would be a good reason to hold the push. So we'll see. So they bolt the bird. I'm not sure if they did that upkeep or not. They're going to swing for 1 and then pass the turn. We drew our 2nd Geist, and from here, choices are Innkeeper or Geist or bird. I think the Innkeeper is the move. Yes. Okay, we got our treasure token, which is not contingent on the Innkeeper being around next turn, which is good. Even though the Innkeeper probably doesn't matter. But this is one of those instances where it's like, you don't care if the Innkeeper gets bolted here. So if they want to use a card to do that, that's fine. But like the value, you've already gotten the value out of it and getting the treasure. So you're happy to see them use a card on this Innkeeper right now. Like you're just killing essentially a vanilla 1/1 at this point. So they swing for 1, and from here, unfortunately did not draw into a land, and I think we're at the point where we're probably going to dump this Dragon's Rage now. Play out our bird, pass the turn. 1/2, they play an iteration. We're going to push in response so they can't have a counter spell up. They have a bauble and a land, and they only have 2 cards in hand. And they play out a Murktide. So we have a Grist, so we can answer that. So this is not the end of the world. Best case scenario, I think we just want to draw lands at this point. And that's the 2nd time. I say we want to draw land, and of course Dryad Arbor shows up once again. Of course. Good old Dryad Arbor. Right when you need them. Alright, they have 4 card types in the graveyard. They draw into their 2nd or 3rd iteration. They're going turbo mode on their turn. Entire graveyard's filled up again when they delved off Murktide last turn, which is just absolutely ridiculous that this deck can do this. And it feels like nothing. They did nothing. Okay, so they have 3 mana up, 2 cards in hand. They'll draw a 3rd card off this bauble. Now we're moving back to our turn. So our turn, we have the Grist activation. We'll play out the Catacombs. I imagine 1 Geist, and then we'll leave up Endurance. And the hope is that they counter a Geist so we can sneak our Endurance in. We'll see if that's the way this works out. There's the Geist. All right, they don't take the bait. 2nd Geist, so we're just going beats. Beats at this point, and they counter the 2nd one. Viewed as enough of a threat to throw that in there. They play out a land and do nothing, and we draw into our 2nd Endurance, which is really, really nice. Our Grist is being unchecked, so we're kind of sneaking away with this one. Swing for 3, put them down to 11, pass the turn, and I think we're probably going to go for an end-step Endurance on their turn, or an upkeep maybe. So it looks like we're going to upkeep Endurance here, trying to keep them off of a Murktide, which I guess if they have is not the end of the world. So there's a counter spell, sure. If they have a Murktide, as long as they don't have a way to get rid of our Grist, we're okay with that. They play out a Shredder. We play out a land on our turn. We're going to dump this Shredder, swing for 5. And I think we're going to do another upkeep Endurance again, if I had to guess. Okay, here it comes again, and I think If they don't have an answer for this, I think this is just GG's. They don't, and they scoop it up. And we are victorious. And by we, I mean Xerk. And the reason I say we is because I feel like we're on the team. We're all on the same team here. So you got there. You got there. I don't know what challenge win that was. If I had to guess, I'd say like 6. I don't want to undershoot because I don't want to insult Xerk, but I feel like that was probably like the 6th challenge win with this deck, but I could be wrong. Xerk, if I'm wrong, correct me, please. So, victorious, the good guys win, Xerk always wins, and a fun look, some insight into what in my opinion, the greatest mind playing Yawgmoth is doing, a look behind the scenes, make me kind of evaluate my sideboarding choices a little bit. Some things that I haven't tried before, some things that I would be interested in trying to just switch things up and take a new perspective. So for me, this was an excellent learning experience. I'm happy I got the opportunity to do this. I'm grateful that Xerk gave us this opportunity. I hope you've enjoyed this special video today. I've enjoyed doing this. I hope we get the opportunity to do this again. And until then, until next time, I'll have a new video out on Monday, so keep an eye out for that. But I will see you guys all very, very soon. Thank you for joining me. Control for days. Xerk, challenge win. Everybody, you know the deal. Be well.